Okay, so it's pretty late at night right now, and I thought I'd catch up on some math contest homework. And I ran into this question, and I think, well, I don't know if it's a unique solution, but I didn't see it on the solution sheet, so I'd like to share it with you. So we have this question. Suppose that f, when f is a function of x plus 3 equals to 3x squared plus 7x plus 4, and f of x, so this is the same function, equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And what is a plus b plus c? Okay, so whenever you're doing a question, you always want to fully understand the question first before you really start thinking about an answer, if that's possible. So we can understand this question as essentially they gave us the function in this format when the input had to be an equation with x plus 3 as the input. And now we have to reduce this in a way so that this 3 is gone and it's only f of x left. And then the question they were asking is the coefficients. But if we're able to reduce this function to f of x, we're going to see the coefficients really easily. So let's try to do that. Now, you could substitute x plus 3 into all of these x's. You could do that, right? Yeah, because this is the input. Well, I'm not going to comment on it because I still don't fully understand it, but let's do my way. Okay. So let's just take a really easy example, something like x. Let's say there was this function equals 3x plus 1. Now let's say you inputted the domain of 5 into this function. Then if f of 5, then we know x plus 3 is equals to 5. So then we know that x equals 2, just by common sense. So we notice that whatever we input, we have to minus 3 on that to get x, because x has kind of this free helping hand of 3, so it can manage to be 3 less. And it's always 3 less because this 3 is constant. So we can actually write this as f of x equals 3x minus 3 plus 1. So if we check this, let's say we inputted 5 into the original function, x would be 2, 3 multiplied by 2 plus 1 is 7, the output would be 7. Now let's try this function. F of 5, so 3 times 5 minus 3, that's 3 times 2, which is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So these two are equivalent, equal. Because we essentially just moved this equation to here. Okay, so let's apply the same principle. All principles of thinking, if you kind of use them on the same path, they're gonna apply the same way. Okay, so let's apply this here. We have f of x plus 3 equals 3x squared plus 7x plus 4. Another way I like to think of this input is if it's an equation like this and not just f of x. F of x is really easy to think about it. But if there's an expression here, then I like to think of this as like a gate. So this gate holds it up, and then it says, before you put the input there, you gotta solve this equation for x. Then you can put x into the function. And meanwhile on that, I think a good way to think about functions, which it's not really taught a lot. Functions are just an input, then whatever the whole process is to get the output, then the output. Now let me explain that by a concrete example. So let's say you have an apple factory, and for each let's say you have a car factory, and for each pound of steel you get in from the supplier, now you're gonna be able to produce 3 times as many cars. Now you could write this as, let's say this is CX equals 3X. So the output would be how many cars you produce, and the input is the amount of steel or whatever I said. So this is simply a function. It's a process that input goes through, and then we say that the result is called the output. Now a function is nothing more than that and nothing less. But by kind of abstracting it in the math way, like math always does with these symbols, okay, this means this, this means this means this. We can communicate that information very, very fast and very dense, like a bullet. Like you get hit by so much information suddenly, and if you're trained, so if you're not trained, you don't understand it. But if you're trained, you went through school, you did good in math, then you can intake all of that information at a very quick time. So because you had more starting information, because you had that much information, you're able to use logic to deduce a lot more information. And that's the point of math, essentially, on my terms. Well, anyways, let's go back to here. We know that for whatever input, x is always going to be 3 less than that input. Now, how do we change that into a writing symbol form? Well, for every input, so x is the input, the x that goes through the process is actually going to be 3 less. So we just minus 3 for all instances of x. Now we see that, here we get the same input. And here you can see that this, deducing this, or like expanding this in its more, in a different form, into standard form, which is this, it's going to give us an equation in this form. And I'm not going to go through all the algebra. So this is going to end up to be 3x squared minus 11x plus 10. So we can see, okay, something times x squared, 3 times x squared, a equals 3. Same logic, b equals minus 11, c equals 10. And they asked us for the sum. We always kept this, like the question on a math question is usually not directly asking like what is A, what is B, what is C. They usually ask it in the sum way or the product way or in another way. And usually on contest questions, this is just to make sure, first of all, there's only one choice, right? So they have to get one answer. You can't say 3. Well, you could put it in a set, but that would be more complicated. But this is also to make the question harder, I think. But like after you see so many questions, basically you have to ignore this sum part. This is literally just asking you what is A, what is B, what is C. And this just relate in this way. So as you can see, if you can see the question clearly, you get the answer. And we just do this, so the sum is going to be 2. And that's the answer.